What we got in here right now? Is that you, Cindy? Somebody with a wrench? Alright. So, where to begin? Haven't made a video in a while. Been pretty busy. I got some trials coming up on Wednesday and Thursday, so a couple days. Well, about 36 hours or so now. I've been prepping for those, pretty hardcore. Other than that, busy with family life. What's up there, Cindy? So not much time to go out and about recording and whatnot. I'm doing some follow through, right now. Anyway, so I wanted to sort of, I've got a lot of people as far as interested in court support and stuff like that, or genuinely curious, just coming across my situation here. New subscribers, by the way. Thanks, News Now Ninja. He sent a good bit of you guys over here by uploading one of my videos with some commentary and whatnot. I appreciate that very much. Welcome if you're new to the channel. If you've been here for a while and watching, thanks for hanging around. I apologize that I haven't kept up with this in a little while. In my defense, I've been pretty busy. I've got three trials back to back to back within 2 days. With everything going on. What's up there, Top Cat? How you been? With everything going on with COVID and whatnot, obviously there's a lot of limitations on the courtroom. But with my specific scenario, I have 3 bench trials. We'll get into that a little bit more. And from what I can understand, the best I can tell, the public is not going to be allowed in there. And I'm pro se. So it's basically, I'm on judge number 8. We'll get to that as well. Just kind of doing a quick synopsis here before we get in depth with some of this information. And I'm on prosecutor's office number 3. And, these cases have become quite political, and I've fought them pretty hard. I'm trying to set precedent here. And I think they know that. So they're sort of, they're going to go the distance with them, as opposed to dismiss them and whatnot. Damn, lost my train of thought there. Anyway, so one of the main things I wanted to touch on in this video is anybody that's interested in sort of keeping an eye on these trials would be able to do so in there's a live stream link that I put in the description of this video. They should be streamed live on the 20th and 21st starting at 8:30. And anybody that wants to keep an eye on those, sort of make sure I'm safe as I'm behind enemy lines, is very much so appreciated. Should you choose to document anything that's going on, take notes, whatever, greatly appreciate that as well. You can never have enough people watching and documenting something of this nature. Now, what are the trials for? Why do you care? So let's get into this. Okay, so first off, I have 3 trials for 3 different arrests. They're in a different order than as I was charged and arrested and such. I'm charged with battery on an individual that grabbed my phone. So there's 2 videos in the description in regards to that that charge. Then I'm charged with trespassing / resisting. There's one video in the description for that situation. And then I'm charged with intimidation, and there's 2 videos in the description for that scenario. Battery, trespassing / resisting law enforcement, intimidation. Chris, these sound serious. They are. But not for the reason you think, not for what you hear, but more so, these are a direct attack on my exercising of my First Amendment protected activities, various, recording in public, my political expression, even litigation in NAACP versus Button. Litigation has been held as a form of expression covered under the First Amendment. So my public records lawsuit, in effect, is essentially considered First Amendment protected activity. So anyway, hold on. I'm sort of getting jumping ahead of the gun here. So let me tell you how these charges originated. And you can check in on the videos. I've put a good bit of stuff in the description. What's up, Tristan? How you been, man? Where are you at these days? Put a good bit of stuff in the description. There's a link to Indiana's My Case website where you can basically look up my entire criminal history up to and including these cases. For anybody who wants to bust that out later, like it's some sort of eureka, in the description. Not messed up about my past at all. I don't have anything I'm ashamed of, so just being stupid and getting caught. So you can drag it out as much as you want. But anyway, it's in the description if you want to check on these cases. There's also a couple playlists. There's one titled Situation that when you hear me reference, that's where my videos begin, February 5th. That's what I'm referencing. There's, basically it's like the first video that I make on and upload onto YouTube all the way through like the beginning of 2017. And they're in basically chronological order, so you can sort of see where a lot of this started, after you watch this video. Which, by the way, thanks for watching. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you're not. Yes, Cindy, thank you. Please mirror by all means. I would appreciate it. I have no problem with that. All right, so the battery charge, pretty simple. I'm doing a public records request at City Hall. I'm coming out of City Hall. This is the first one scheduled for trial. I figured this would be the easiest one to knock out and get out of the way, so I chose to do that first. It also has a lot of stuff that's attached to it that sort of complicates the other cases should I beat it, and I'll get to that in a moment. So anyway, I do a public records request. I'm coming out of City Hall. I'm walking across the street. As I'm doing so, I cross paths with this gentleman named Mitch Ficus. He's currently the Laporte County GOP chairman, and he formerly, but at the time, was the Laporte Board of Public Works and Safety member, one of 3. So he's actually, he has a little bit of responsibility as a public servant outside of his political capacity as a GOP chair. And as I'm crossing, I'm basically asking him, I took the opportunity to, I petition my government for a redress of grievance. When are you going to fire that bum-ass city attorney? That would be Nick Otis. Nick Otis is the city attorney, and I think he's garbage. I think he's a terrible attorney. I totally think the cities should do away with him. I think he's wasting their money, and he's not getting them anywhere with my situation specifically at all. So basically, I asked the Board of Public Works and Safety member, Mitch Ficus, who is, like I said, he's one of the 3 signatures on the contract between the city and the law firm that Mr. Otis is out of, Newby, Lewis, Kaminsky, and Jones. So basically I'm yes, welcome everyone. I see we got a good couple of viewers. Invictus Media, how you been? Long time no see. Clearly expressive activity. I'm commentating on public business. These are public employees, public funds, public business. Everything about this is First Amendment protected activity. I'm also, on a public right of way. I'm crossing the street as Mr. Ficus is. We're both within the crosswalk. He kind of veers out a little bit after he passes me, but we're both on public property, in public, and I'm recording. Had been prior, well before that. I didn't start recording because I seen him or anything. I just happened to see him as I was already out and about recording. And basically we have some words. He ends up getting upset, calls me an asshole. I call him a crook. He gets upset when I call him a crook. Basically verbal exchange, nothing happening, and then he grabs my phone and my wrist. And my first instinct was to throw my coffee in his face, and in hindsight I wish I would have. It would have been a lot easier to deal with. They could have confiscated as evidence this cup of coffee, and I would have been fine with that. But my brain sort of frazzled out, and in order to get this individual to get their hands off of me and stop interfering with my phone, I sort of, gave him a little love tap in the face, not even thinking about it, just, a jerk reaction. And immediately I'm like, oh, fuck, what did I do? I didn't mean to hit this dude. So I call 911. In the video, I call 911, and I essentially, I tell 911, like, I'm getting off the phone, I'm gonna make some other calls, I'm not really, this is about to get ugly, I'm trying to inform some people, of the scenario that I'm in right now. And, they're trying to still talk, and I'm not trying to talk, so I hang up on 911, and I get what's called a switch hook. I get switch hooked, which is basically where 911, they basically take control over your phone line, so that they are able to get back a hold of you. It's a very useful tool in the right scenario that it was designed for, but I didn't need it at the time, and they didn't even call me back. So anyway, they locked me out of using my phone with this switch hook thing. And what's up, Tex Bud? Thank you, sir. They locked me out of my phone with this switch hook thing, and I can't make any calls. I can't go live. I can't do anything but basically start recording again. So I'm like freaking out, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, this is not good. I can't make any phone call. Like, I'm trying to call some people and send a couple, Facebook messages really quick. Like, basically I could, this would have been a lot less, concerning if I was able to, inform a couple people, hey, I'm downtown, this just happened, you want to shoot down here real quick and keep an eye on things for me. It's been a lot easier to deal with. Anyway, so I get locked out, start recording again, and that's where the second video that's in the description picks up. So then an officer comes, because I've called 911 and such, basically to try to, I tell the 911 people, hey, this, this dude grabbed my phone, I reacted, might want to send an ambulance or something. And in no way, shape, or form am I proud of this, or do I find it funny or anything. It's a surreal scenario to encounter, because I wasn't expecting it all. I was completely caught off guard. I didn't expect this dude to try to grab me or my phone at all. I think he, realized that he was on camera when he said a bunch of stupid stuff, and then that's when his instinct was to grab my phone, and my instinct was to stop him. Thank you, Cindy. So the officer shows up. They go talk to him first. This would be Officer Patrick Seitz. And I have a little bit of a history with sort of not necessarily personally with him, but online activity. I've been pretty critical of the officer well before this. He was involved in a scenario where him and two other officers, they were named in a lawsuit that paid out because they basically let three or they let these three officers let a EMT go, and he was basically drunk. He basically got the cops called on him because he was driving drunk, and they went and interacted with the dude, let him go, drive off drunk, basically is the story. Allegedly, they let him drive off drunk, and allegedly they knew he was drunk, but he absolutely was convicted and had the appeal affirm the conviction for killing two people while he was drunk, two local business owners. This EMT killed, he was driving his Mustang on the highway, T-boned a local couple that owned a pizza place, killed them both. The EMT dude ends up airlifted. He survives. There's a big trial. These officers are the most brutal judge. He just lost the re-election, but this dude is straight up hard-nosed, the big boy court, always sides with the officers kind of thing. But he completely went in and basically, for once, called it how it was, and basically called them negligent and abandoned their duties, and called for the department to discipline them and all this. They were not. I requested any of that. They've never been disciplined. As a matter of fact, Patrick Seitz retires, and he ends up moving a block down the street from my house. Oddly enough, it's really, really strange to move a block down the street from me as a police officer in Laporte, but he did. He retires. He gets his public employment retirement fund money, and the city paid out this lawsuit. It completely shook the faith in the community locally with the department, because this was basically covered up. They didn't file a report, all sorts of stuff. These officers did all kinds of crazy shit. You can look it up. It's Tron Gorbanesinko, officers Dan Reed, Patrick Seitz, and forget the other one. I want to say Robert Hagler, Judge Bergerson. It's a big scenario. You can look up those names and find it all. Anyway, so Patrick Seitz, I was already kind of brutal online with him, very, very critical with that, as well as some of his Facebook posts were like talking about drowning people. If you hold somebody underwater long enough, your problems go away. The Kardashians holding white balls for the first time with them, baseballs in their hands. Some racist stuff, some concerning propensity for violence, especially as a police officer. Just a lot of different stuff on his face. I just heard that the little boy that I was sponsoring in Africa was eaten by a lion. Good news. Just I narcaned your honor student. Just blatantly obvious just through the memes that this dude is not that great of an officer. He's likely the bad apple. Okay, so in this second video where I'm interacting with him, he's trying to get me to show him the video, the first video, and I'm basically telling him that at the time I'm interacting with him, I'm recording, and I can't show him the video while I'm recording, and I'd like to wait until somebody that I've contacted can get there and keep an eye on things, and then I'll show them the video. Basically, once I get somebody else here to record, then I'll show you the video, because I'll need to stop recording. But I'm not about to be interacting with you guys right now, not on video. Anyway, so he basically threatens me with arrest. It's basically like, put your hands behind your back, you're under arrest for battery. Or no, he's trying to get me to show him the video, and as I'm explaining this to him. I basically tell him that I'm uncomfortable being around him, and I mentioned these Facebook posts. And at the time, he's trying to say he wants, this guy over here who, he's a public servant. He didn't get to finish his sentence, but he wanted me arrested. And that's exactly what happens. As soon as I mention these Facebook posts, the dude, basically reaches for my wrist, tells me to put my hands behind my back, tells me I'm under arrest for battery, etc., etc. I show him the video. They end up taking me to jail. And in the report, basically, he says that they're waiting to see if they're going to charge. They're waiting to see the video again. He gave me an email address, and they're waiting to see the video again and determine if they should charge Mr. Ficus with battery as well. So they take me to the jail that night. They hold me. They won't let me out on a bond. They won't let me bond out. They hold me on a false hold until like 1 a.m. that morning, and then a different shift officer ends up double checking the paperwork and stuff because he kind of knows me, and ends up realizing that what I told him earlier was correct and they were wrong, and he lets me post my bond, and I go home at like 1 a.m. on July 4th. So yeah, this battery happened July 3rd, by the way. So my bond receipt is July 4th. But the police come like 7 o'clock that night while I'm being falsely held on another case, conveniently, and take my phone. What ends up happening with, I end up filing to get my phone back. This would be, all right, so I got arrested July 3rd of 2018. Bond out July 4th, 2018. I end up filing to get my phone back on July 9th of, and I'll explain in a minute while I'm getting so in depth with this case specifically, because it has a bunch of other stuff tied to it. But I filed to get my phone back on July 9th, and it's set for a hearing on July 16th. Or on the 9th, they set it for a hearing on the 16th. The next day, on the 10th, the prosecutor's office files a warrant to access my phone, and they want like 3 hours worth of stuff, my contact list, all sorts of shit, not just the video, which I would have uploaded July 4th as soon as I got out of jail, and I would have had this online immediately. I have a YouTube channel with 600 fucking videos, so this would have been online immediately. There was no reason to take it to preserve the video, and they knew this. They wanted access to my contact list. They wanted to see who I called to get bonded out of jail. They wanted to see a lot more stuff. Anyway, so the prosecutor's office files for a warrant on the 10th. They get the warrant on the 10th, thus making my hearing on the 16th null and void, pretty much a moot point. Then the next day, on the 11th, the prosecutor's office files a motion for special prosecutor due to a conflict of interest with Mitch Ficus, the victim. Okay, so he didn't have a conflict of interest with Mitch Ficus, the victim, before he filed for the warrant to get my phone. But once he got the warrant to get my phone and was able to view the video, then he had a conflict of interest. Now, remember, in the report, they say that they are waiting to watch the video again to see if they need to charge Mitch Ficus. Looks like they would have had to charge Mitch Ficus, otherwise he wouldn't have had a conflict of interest with him as the prosecutor. Anyway, that happens July 11th, 2018. 2 days later, Judge Jeffrey Thorne, the judge of the court where it's filed, also recuses as a conflict of interest with Mitch Ficus, the victim, because, quote, he's the only Republican judge. And the prosecutor, John Esbar, recused because his daughter was running for the prosecutor's office as a Republican, so that meant she had a significant political relationship, and thus her dad had a conflict of interest as the current prosecutor. Okay, so it's weird how these political ties work out in their favor when they arrest me. Anyway, so the judge recuses from all 3 cases that are currently in that courtroom, which is where this battery case sort of gets, when this judge recuses from all three of these cases sort of get put together. Now, the battery is actually from July, and the charging is all sort of in line with the arrest as far as dates go. But the criminal trespass, now I'm going to pause on the battery for right now, and I'm going to give you a little bit of details about this other one, and then I'll show you where they all meet up, and then we'll get to where we are now. So stay with me here. 1 second. Seeing something in the chat there. All right. The criminal trespass and intimidation both stem from about a month prior, the beginning of June, where I had done a public records request for some records in March of 2018, or in January of 2018. They get denied, and I basically filed a public records suit for these in March of 2018. I have a hearing April 2nd of 2018. There's a link for a video of the transcripts. I understand that sounds not ideal. Pause, play, pause, play, pause, play. So if you're really interested in going and reading them in depth and you would like the transcripts, get a hold of me on that video, comment, and I can give you I'll update the description of this video afterwards with an email address and whatnot. But you can get a hold of me, my email, or comment on there and let me know you need my email address, whatever. I'll find a way to get a hold of you. I'll put my Facebook stuff in there as well. Or I'll find a way that you can contact me, and then I can email you the actual transcripts if you're interested. But the April 2nd hearing, I argue out that, these 13 pages of documents that the city attorney, Nick Otis, spoiler alert, that's who my intimidation charge is against, and he's one of the witnesses that I'm trespassing at City Hall. Anyway, April 2nd, me and Otis argue these records out. I end up basically winning the argument. The judge orders the city to give me these public records, and I go to get them with the court order on June 2nd. I think the court order signed May 25th. I go like June 1st, I think. June 1st, 2018, and I'm trying to get these public records. And the city attorney is basically trying to tell me that he's not going to give me the records even though I got the court order. And this is the criminal trespass / resisting law enforcement charges. They stem from the 2 videos. In the description, one of them's titled, after you click on it, it's titled Before the Arrest, and then there's another one called Court Order, Schmort Order. Those 2 videos are from that day. Then hold on a minute. No, there's 2 videos. 2 videos for June 5th. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. I was reading the chat. So, yeah, there's 2 videos from June 1st. That's the before the arrest and the court order schmort order. I shouldn't really titled it before the arrest because I didn't get arrested that day. I get arrested like, what was that? It was a Friday, so yeah, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days later, on the 5th, I think, of June, I get arrested for trespassing / resisting law enforcement in the legal department at City Hall. So now, where does all this tie together, and where does it all stem from, and all of this? Where it all ties together is basically these cases are all being handled back to back to back with bench trials. Oh, real quick, hold on. Let me backtrack a little bit. Then there's a lot of information here, so if I say something that's confusing, it's hard to keep track of this shit myself. It's quite extensive. There's a lot of details and dates and things that have happened and overlap between it all. So, the shit gets confusing to me sometimes. So, if something doesn't make any sense or you're not following along, just go right ahead and let me know. I can go ahead and, fix that, whatever. So, the trespass charge, actually, when I get arrested for trespassing, I bond out, I go to court, and I don't actually go to court. The prosecutor meets me in the hallway, tells me basically to go home, that the charges are going to be dismissed, the case is over with, etc. They gave me my bond money back, like middle of June, 3rd week of June, something like that. So I thought this trespass / resisting charge was completely over with. And then I seen something about it online, and I had been issued a summons to appear in court. And as opposed to having the police show up randomly at my door and catch me in an off mood, and I end up cussing them out and end up arrested for some other nonsense on my porch, I decided to go down to the courthouse and get served with this summons on their property. And so that's why I'm downtown on the day that I actually get the battery charge. Okay, so they file this trespassing charge on July 2nd. On July 3rd, I'm downtown trying to get served with this summons, and then I happen to do this public records request while I'm already downtown, and then this battery happens right after the public records request. Okay. Then the day after, 2 days after, so I get arrested on July 3rd for the battery, and then the charges are technically filed July 5th. That's the date on the docket. And then July 6th is when the intimidation from June 1st, so a little over a month before. So yeah, July 6th of 2018 is when the alleged intimidation ends up filed. And obviously, they didn't feel they had a strong enough case until after they had a battery charge filed, which allows them to, he's charged with battery and this cause number to a jury, which makes intimidation look a little more probable. Just my layman's opinion. Otherwise, there's no reason to file it the next day. All the other paperwork before that, they had everything in June. There's really no other reason for filing it the day after the battery charge. unless they thought that that helped the intimidation case, in my opinion. Anyway, so all three of these cases end up filed within, so one's on the 2nd, one's on the 5th, and one's on the 6th. So within 5 days of each other, or less. And because of this, this judge, all three end up set for an initial hearing on July 16th, which they cancel my hearing that's set for returning my phone on the 16th as soon as they issue the warrant. But they don't ever actually cancel the initial hearing. I show up for that. I'm issued a no contact order on Mr. Ficus and his wife, who's on city council. I think they thought that was going to keep me out of there, but in fact it didn't at all. The only thing it really did was I worked at the marina installing boat lifts and docks and such, and I actually used to install his, and basically this no contact order made it to where his was the last to get installed in the spring and the last to get pulled out in the winter because I wasn't doing it. That's about the only thing his no contact order accomplished. Anyway, sorry, I got a little sidetracked there with some laughs. This judge recuses from all three of these on the 13th of July. When he does this, he sort of lumps them all together to where they all three go to the next judge for special judge appointment. And then the next one. And 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 now we're on Judge 8. One of the 5 judges in the county, the only one that actually should have recused, stayed on the case for 1 year and 1 day, until he finally recused. From what I can tell, because of what I filed that day, which was a notice to cease and desist all fraudulent activity. And I map out when and where a judge loses his immunity. He basically read it and recused right then. It's funny how that works. But he didn't recuse for any reason at all, according to the prosecutor's office. Just because he was annoyed with me. Not because the paperwork that I put in his hand seconds before that. Anyway. So, throughout all these recusals, all this time goes by in between judges. And most of this isn't really these judges are responsible for their nonsensical recusals. They're supposed to outline reasons, and they all claim a conflict of interest and whatnot, but they don't actually say with who. We're going to get to why those are nonsense. But in between these recusals, the local clerk of court is basically taking as much possible time as she can. 3 months, 6 months, and I mean, sometimes it's as little effort as walking it from the first floor of the county complex to the second floor of the county complex, or maybe the third. And she doesn't even have to use the stairs because they have an elevator. But it could take 5-6 months for her to do this. If you watch some of my other videos, there's a playlist link for how to file a complaint against the clerk of court in Indiana, with a bunch of videos where I try to figure out how to stop her nonsense. Spoiler alert, it's really not possible to hold the clerk accountable. Not even the Supreme Court claims that authority. So if you get a bad clerk, you're just hit. This is a matter of rolling the dice. Anyway, why do all these recusals and why does all this time between them matter? Because in Indiana, they have 365 days when you're released out on bond, not incarcerated, but awaiting trial. They have the state has 365 days to bring you to trial. And, if they go over this time, there's reasons why, and when it's the defendant's fault, when it's the state's fault. And basically, it's it's a game of who's responsible for how many days, and you can get some leeway, basically, depending on who's responsible for what amount of time. Now, this is a lot of time for me, the defendant, to eat, based upon the reasoning for the recusals and the reasoning for all the time in between recusals being something that I could not possibly have foreseen, in the one instance that I actually requested a recusal, which was on like judge number 4 or 5. And he's the only one that should have actually recused. I lay it out extensively. He recuses for a year, but I mean, my recusal was 100%. Should have been, he should have recused. He refuses for a year and a day exactly. I don't think I should eat that entire time while a judge who acknowledges after a year and a day that he has a conflict of interest. I don't think I should eat the year and a day that he wasted while he denied that he had a conflict of interest if he ultimately admits it in the end. I think that the state should eat that time because the judge is essentially part of the state for the purposes of a 4C or a 4C dismissal. All right, as well as I'm not necessarily responsible, and my due process rights are not hinging upon political activity of judicial officers, which is outright banned in any judicial canon, affecting how the judicial system plays out. Basically, all of these judges have recused because of the so-called victim, when in reality they're recusing because of me, but they're claiming that it's political, not that they want to, deny me my civil rights. So they claim that it's this political reasoning. But the first judge actually only recuses from the case with this guy. So the first, I apologize if I'm trying to explain this the best I can. The first judge that recuses only recuses from cases involving Mitch Ficus that I'm involved in. Okay, so he recuses from all 3 of my cases because one of them involved Mitch Ficus. But he's actually the judge at the same time for 10 months, or 8 months before that, he became the judge on a lawsuit against Mitch Ficus Builders Incorporated, him and his company. And then about 2 months after that, I stumble across it, post a bunch about it on Facebook. Basically, the next business day, he recuses. It was on a Friday, and that Tuesday after Labor Day, he ends up recusing as a conflict of interest because of Mitch Ficus. But he only did it because I posted about it on Facebook. And then now he's currently the judge in an OWI case with Will Ficus, who is Mitch Ficus's son and is also involved with the company that the lawsuit was against. And then this judge also recused from one of my civil suits as a conflict of interest, but not with me again, with the city of Laporte. But since then, that's the thing about these cases going on for so long, is other cases have to happen and they need to file them in courts, and people forget about stuff like this. This judge in November or December of last year, a case was filed in his court by the city of Laporte. No conflict of interest. So it's only cases involving me that this judge has a conflict of interest in. All these judges have recused due to a conflict of interest, but they don't actually have a conflict of interest, and they're not recusing in the proper format where they spell out why they have a conflict, who it's with. They're just recusing, and conflict, one in 5 word, recusals, things of this nonsense. Anyway, the recusals are all bullshit. The time I should have to eat based upon it being negligence of the clerk and a bunch of political activity to stall these cases by judges who are supposed to be as unbiased as it gets. Politics are not supposed to affect the judicial system at all. So this is a whole nother travesty. Okay. Whew. Now, why is this important enough for you to pay attention to? Well, the battery is not so much important. The intimidation isn't really important. I feel I have all three of these cases beat already. I've prepared extensively. I know my stuff. I wouldn't be going to trial if I didn't feel that I had this 150%, sewn up. However, the issues, some of the issues that are at play here, need to be addressed on a legal level, because they affect individuals more than myself. The 4C time is probably not going to be what I get into. We're probably not going to dismiss these cases because of the amount of time. I've accepted that. We're going to trial. So those issues, I can file complaints and whatnot, civil matters about them later, and try to work on those. But for this trial, the biggest opportunity that I have to make some sort of good out of this, to utilize this to affect the way the law is actually carried out and make sure that it's carried out for its intended purpose, is to basically focus my energy on how the trespassing on public property plays out. And the reason I think this, I don't think I'm some sort of a martyr or something. However, in my opinion, trespassing on public property is an outlandish notion. And I think this based upon individuals that I've interacted with, who when I tell them that I was arrested for trespassing on public property, their immediate response is, how can you get arrested for trespassing it on public property? That's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense at all. If you check out these April 2018 transcripts, in the hearing, the judge, the city attorney, he says, he was trespassed from the building, etc. And the judge says, yeah, that it was over a year ago. Then he says, how does one get trespassed from the most sacred of public lands, City Hall? So it's immediately, as soon as the city attorney said, well, he's trespassed on public property, a judge, his immediate response was, how? That's ridiculous. How? And it's because it's ridiculous. And in my studying various cases, and this is specifically applicable to Indiana. I'm going to refer to a little bit of federal law in my case, but in Indiana, the way that this has been argued out is basically what I'm going to focus on, because most of the people that end up arrested on public property in Indiana make this same argument. I'm on public property. Most of these people that get arrested for refusing to leave public property only refuse to leave because they believe that they don't have to, because they don't believe that they could possibly be trespassing on public property. So, if an individual can be arrested for trespassing on public property, there should be a plain language explanation of when and how this is possible. Because the general societal perception, from my observations, are that people don't think that they can be arrested on public property for trespassing because it's public property. So the law doesn't necessarily line up with the public perception. And the public remains at risk for being arrested for something that they don't actually know is a crime. Okay. 1 second here. Let me take a breath. Cindy going in on Otis. Oh, what's up, Sandra? Why don't I go to law school? Man, because those guys have restrictions. My shit is wide open. I'm able to do a lot more without the restraints of a license and an oath and maybe an ethics policy. You know, a law degree isn't all it's cracked up to be. Cindy going in. What's up, Dracula? Oh. Oh my God, I would love to get into the garden. Hold on, I gotta take a quick drink here. Alright, so my cases are, like I said, I got the battery for the guy that tries to grab my phone, and I try to help him rethink that. That I've got an intimidation on the city attorney for saying that I was going to take information about him from the internet and take it from one place on the internet and put it on another place on the internet, like I do every single day with every other public official around here. So yeah, that's in the court order schmort order video. I end up charged with intimidation for that little exchange where I don't know what exactly the threat he thinks. Indiana has to be it's defined as a threat against your safety versus a threat against your reputation. The case is Brewington v. Indiana. Daniel Brewington. Very interesting story if you ever want to check it out. But it's basically a true threat is considered a threat against your safety. Being subjected to public clamor, ridicule, things of this nature is not a threat as far as a true threat is defined. A threat against your reputation is not a threat against your safety. So that's where the intimidation charge dies immediately. And a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh, intimidation. And that's one of the reasons I think why they charged me with it. No, Sandra's been paying attention a little while. I haven't been keeping up with this too much. I've been, like I said, kids. We redid all kinds of stuff in the house. Floors, walls, all kinds of stuff, decor. New baby. There's a pandemic. My oldest is doing e-learning, and when he's not doing e-learning, he's 10 years old, so he's got all the energy in the world. So yeah, haven't between the two kids and prepping for all this, I haven't had time to really make too many videos. I apologize for that. Yeah, it's been a long time coming with some updates. By the way, all right, so real quick while I'm thinking about it, I put a link for the Court of Appeals opinion in the description, and that's in regards to the case that I get the court order for that I have in my hand in the court order schmort order video that gets me the intimidation case, and I also have it in the video of where I get arrested for trespass and resisting. That court order, the city does end up filing a motion to correct error, a motion to stay, all sorts of stuff, and all of it gets denied. They basically give me 12 pages. They denied me 13 pages. They give me 12 pages that are not the 13 pages, and they give me 12 different pages and try to act like it's the same pages, and It's really weird. Yeah, they give me these 12 pages to sort of like pacify me, trick me, whatever. I file something August of 2018, basically saying that, hey, they gave me these 12, because I thought they were 12 of the 13 at the time. Hey, they gave me these 12 pages, but I'm missing a 13th page. There's no response for like 16 months. Then the judge denies literally everything that the city files to appeal this. October of last year, I call the court and I'm like, hey, I never got this 13th page. Nobody's ever ruled on my motion about it. What the fuck is going on? Did you guys just forget about this or what? Because it seems like Nick Otis, pretty much told you guys, to kick rocks and you just took it. So a couple days later, the courts issue an order to compel, giving the city 21 days to produce these 13 pages. And Otis basically tries to appeal it with the Court of Appeals like it's a new order, and claims that when I checked in on my motion, it was ex parte communication. He claims that I intimidate the judge because in another video I claim the judges are scared of me. Hey, chat. We're all on the same team here. No need for all this. No worries. But so the judge tries to get them to give me these 13 pages, threaten them with contempt of court. Not actually, it wasn't October of last year. I apologize. It was October of 2019, 16 months later. Otis, the city attorney, files an appeal with the Court of Appeals in November of 2019, and it makes it all the way to October of last year, and that's the order that's in the description. The Court of Appeals denied it completely as untimely, but they were kind of forthcoming with what the actual 13 pages are, which are 13 emails between the former city attorney, who actually has me put on some sort of a trespass list when all this originates in 2015/2016. Anyway, so it's emails from her to various city officials advising them on how to handle me. Obviously, she did not do a very good job. Yeah, we're all friends here. No worries. But yeah, I'm gonna let you two work it out because I'm trying to stay focused here. It's makes it difficult. Kind of tries to deviate away from that a little bit. Anyway, so the city tries to appeal this. They lose and everything because the city attorney accused me of intimidating the judge because I claim that judges were scared of me in another video as a completely side comment. But he tries to utilize it to, this means that A plus B, B plus C, A equals C kind of thing. You as well, Sandra. I'm totally not starting over, Catfish Cheese. But, I give you the best chance to update yourself with everything. This video, there's going to be lots of stuff in the descriptions. I'll try to narrate you through the rest of the channel and whatnot, and elaborate on it all as much as I can here tonight. But anyway, I'm getting a little sidetracked here. Where was I? Anybody, what was I saying? Snaps. All right. All right. All right. Anyway, I forgot where I was at with all that, trying to see what's going on here with the chat. So, the trespassing charge is sort of what I really want to focus on. And one of the reasons why I think this is important to the First Amendment advocacy community is because, you know, auditors, cop watchers, you know, individuals that file a public records request, you know, anybody that's interested in governmental transparency or accountability, at some point in time, you're going to find yourself on public property. And, you know, as soon as you're on public property, you're pretty much subject to be kicked off of it based upon what you say and what you're doing. And you know, I'm obviously not trying to affect this on like a federal level here. I don't anticipate, you know, this case is going to go even beyond the maybe the Court of Appeals tops. But I don't see this going past these trials as anything other than not guilty. However, in Indiana specifically, the trespassing charges, like I said, when I notice all this studying through all these different trespassing cases, what I noticed is that everybody that's arrested on trespassing charges on public property immediately argues that they're on public property. So how can they be arrested for trespassing on public property? And they're right. They're actually right. But what happens is the state responds and says, prove it. And that's where, you know, based upon my observations, all these cases that I've studied, you know, in order to prepare to go to trial for this and argue it out, they're not making the argument that the public has the right to be on public property. They're claiming that, but they're not actually backing it up with cases and with Indiana codes, you know, definitions of the words that are being used. They're not breaking it down by the different, like for instance, in Indiana, criminal trespassing has, so this is where specifically this gets important in Indiana. Indiana has 7 elements to a criminal trespassing charge. Okay, and if you want to look into this, it's outlined in Lyles v. State. It's a case from Indiana in 2012. 970 NE 2D 140. Okay, so the offense has 7 elements. Even though, all right, jury instructions only have 5, they combine a couple of these into one element, or combines a few of these into 2 different elements. So jury instructions actually have 5 elements. But the Indiana code, or the Indiana cases that outline this, outline 7 elements. 1, the defendant knowingly or intentionally. 2, refuse to leave. 3, the real property. 4, of another person. 5, after having been asked to leave. 6, by the other person, or by the person or the person's agent. 7, when such defendant lacked a contractual interest in the real property. Okay, so typically how this is usually played out is in these cases is that all right, so a police officer, for one, is not an agent of the property. So, like I said, there's some important things as far as, definitions and whatnot, that we'll get into. Like, number one, knowingly or intentionally, that's pretty self-explanatory. Two, refuse to leave, pretty self-explanatory. However, for instance, there's case law that says the criminal trespass statute's purpose is to punish those who willfully or without a bona fide claim of right commit acts of trespass on the land of another. Okay, so the trespass statute is for those who, without a in good faith claim, bona fide means in good faith, so without a good faith claim of right to be on the land of another. That's what the trespass statute is for in Indiana. Okay, and this is Myers v. State. It's an Indiana case from 1921. It's been confirmed as recently as Woods v. State in the Indiana Court of Appeals. And Woods v. State is quoted quite often in various other trespassing cases. As well as the belief that one has the right to be present on property of another will preclude the liability for trespass so long as the belief has a fair and reasonable foundation. So a fair and reasonable foundation that one has the right to be present on the property of another, or a bona fide claim of right. A fair and reasonable foundation that you have a bona fide claim of right to be on the property. Do you mean thinking that the public cannot be banned from public property? The real property. So, public property in Indiana means a public right-of-way, street, highway, alley, park, or other state, county, or municipal property. Private property means all property other than public property. Public place means any place to which the public is invited by special or an implied invitation. Public place includes any tract owned by the state or political subdivision, as well as State v. Basinger, 272 Indiana 236. It's an Indiana case from 1979. Defines public place as any place where the public is invited and are free to go upon special or implied invitation, a place available to all or a certain segment of the public. Okay, so public property is some place that the public could reasonably expect that they have a right to be, okay, of another person. Now this is where it's going to get real important to pay attention. Public property is not the property of another person per se. It's the property of the public. So I was arrested on my own property. Okay? Now, let me explain how this works. A public official is a fiduciary toward the public, including in the case of a judge. The litigants who appear before him, and if he deliberately conceals material information from them, he is guilty of fraud. Concealing material information in violation of his fiduciary obligations. This is U.S. v. Holzer, Holzer, 816 F2D 304, 7th Circuit, 1987. In Indiana, the word entrusted means held in a fiduciary capacity or placed in charge of a person engaged in the business of transporting, storing, lending, or otherwise holding properties of others. In a fiduciary capacity, holding properties. Public office means the office of any and every individual who for, on, or behalf of the state or any municipality or any public hospital holds, receives, disperses, or keeps the accounts of the receipt and disbursements of any public funds. Public officer means any individual who holds, receives, disperses, or is required by law to keep any account of public funds or other funds for which the individual is accountable by virtue of the individual's public office. Acting as a fiduciary means undertaking to act primarily for the benefit of another. The term includes the following: acting as a trustee, as a personal representative, as a registrar of stocks and bonds, as a guardian or conservator of estates, as an assignee, as a receiver, as a custodian, as an investment manager or agent, as a managing agent, or as in any other similar capacity. Okay, so a public official is an agent of the public. Okay. Number 6, as far as the elements go, by the person or the person's agent. So they have to prove that I was told to leave by the person or the person's agent. Okay. Now, under Gillespie v. State 955 NE 2D 819, Indiana Court of Appeals 2011, to establish an actual agency relationship, 3 elements must be shown. Agency is, because agency is a relationship resulting from the manifestation of consent by one party to another, that the latter will act as an agent for the former. So a relationship resulting from the manifestation of consent. 3 elements must be shown. Manifestation of consent by the principal. So we, the people, are the principal of this property. When we vote this individual into office, we have manifested that consent. Okay. Second element is acceptance of authority by the agent. That is that public official's oath of office. They are accepting the authority to act as the agent of that property. The third element is control exerted by the principal, we the people, over the agent, the public official. That's when they say, vote him out of office, or Indiana's impeachment statute. The agency relationship that criminal trespassing is required to prove exist in order to find me guilty does not exist in the way that the courts respond, basically. Okay, so basically this is the argument that nobody's making. Okay, they're right. The public has the right to be on their own property. The public official is the one who's there and he's not trespassing because he's been given permission to be there. The public does not need permission to be on public property. All right, so let's further go into agency as far as Indiana law is concerned. One who asserts that there was an agency relationship has the burden of proving it exists. It is a well-established rule that agency cannot be proven by the declaration of the agent. Now, mind you, if you think of the word agency, you think of a governmental entity, a board, a commission, a council. These are agencies because they're not the principal. They're the agencies of the public, holding public property in trust of the people. Okay? Now, what does that mean? It's called jus publicum, a right of public ownership. Okay? It's defined in Webster's as the right of ownership of real property that is held in trust by a government for the public. The example in Webster's dictionary is title flats are subject to the jus publicum, which is the right of public ownership. The case that Webster's quotes is United States v. Hensel 509 F sub 1376. It's from 1981, and it is quoting State v. Wilson, a case from 1856. Okay? So this has long been established since 1856 that property held by the government is entrusted to them by the public. They are trustees or agents of the public for that property. But the public owns the property, not the agent. Okay? Now, man, that's a mouthful. Oh, again, just real quick, since I mentioned it. A police officer is neither an owner of a property nor an agent of an owner of a property, cannot create a trespass violation by asking a patron to leave and then arrest the patron when he refuses to do so. This is Porgarashi v. Flying J Incorporated. It's out of the 7th Circuit, 2006. That's Porgaraishiv Flying J Incorporated. Anyway, so why is January 20th and January 21st important, or why would they be, maybe something you'd be interested in? Because I'm going to try to make this argument in a way that I think actually does it justice. And not to take away from anybody else that's actually tried it. I don't know, who even seen any of this before and thought about it, but in my opinion, this is the correct agency-principal relationship to debate the legal existence of should an individual be charged on public property for trespassing. Excuse me. Like I said, don't know that I've seen anybody else come close to even trying to make this argument. They're correct in their assertion. They do have the right to be on public property, but they're not actually spelling out why they have that right with legal precedent and case law for the state of Indiana when the state says, prove it. And I recognize the opportunity to do this. And I think that this is important because one of the reasons is the amount of First Amendment protected activity in my scenario here is just ridiculous. However, anybody that has a YouTube channel that's sort of trying to keep the government accountable and everything, the citizen journalist, the citizen press, which is the true definition of a free press. A free press is a press that anyone is free to be a part of. Citizen journalists, individuals like myself and various others on YouTube are a very important part of the alternative media that keeps us apprised and informed of various government officials' positions, activities, bloopers, whatever you want to call it. So this is from New York Times versus United States. It's a case most people are familiar with. I just wanted to sort of touch on this for a second, reinforce my point here. In the First Amendment, the Founding Fathers gave the press the protection it must have to fulfill its essential role in our democracy. Okay? The press was to serve the governed, not the governors. The government's power to censor the press was abolished so so that the press would remain forever free to censure, censure, the government. The press was protected so that it could bear the secrets of the government and inform the people. Only a free and unrestrained press can effectively expose deception in government, and paramount among the responsibilities of a free press is the duty to prevent any part of the government from deceiving the people. It goes on to say that in revealing the workings of government, newspapers nobly did precisely that which the founders hoped and trusted they would do. A quote from Chief Justice Hughes in DeLong v. Oregon, 299 U.S. 353. The greater the importance of safeguarding the community from incitements to overthrow our institutions. So, anybody that's watching this, I want you to think about the times that we live in right now. The things that you've seen on the news lately. Think about the scenario in which I've described to you. Watch these videos and compare it to when an individual feels that the system does not work for them and they take their frustrations out in incorrect attempts to seek out remedy. Okay? So let's look at what trespassing really is. There's a reason why these processes, why these protections are in place, and that's so that we don't come to a point that our populace is so frustrated by a lack of remedy with our government that we have something like what we've seen recently happen. These individuals weren't necessarily crazy so much as that they were frustrated, desperate, at their wits' end. Many of these individuals were angry at a system that they felt they no longer could have faith in. Whether they were wrong or misled or fucking stupid even. They weren't wrong about the fact that there's justification to feel like our foundational institutions in America have been jeopardized by greed and corruption, and they're not necessarily wrong in claiming that our elections could be fraudulent or that things have been kept from the public. This is everyday America, all through the country, every town. This doesn't just happen in the federal elections. This is everyday America. This is in the police departments. This is your redevelopment commission. This is your city council, your board of public works and safety. All of these people could use a little more transparency and accountability. And the citizen acting as an agent of a free press, wholly taking their responsibility seriously to participate actively in our American democracy is, that's what this stuff is about. This wasn't just meant to protect the New York Times. This was meant to protect anyone engaged in First Amendment protected activity as a member of the citizen press, essentially. All right. Now, the greater the importance of safeguarding the community from incitements to overthrow our institutions by force and violence, the more important is the need to preserve inviolate the constitutional rights of free speech, free press, and free assembly in order to maintain the opportunity for free political discussion to the end that government may be responsive to the will of the people, and that changes, if desired, may be obtained by peaceful means. Therein lies the security of the Republic, the very foundation of constitutional government. The newspapers make a derivative claim under the First Amendment. They denominate this right as the public right to know. New York Times, that was New York Times versus United States. This is New York Times v. Sullivan. Real quick, there was another one I wanted to touch on real quick. Debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and that may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. They don't necessarily give rise to a true threat under the Intimidation statute, though. That's Terminiello v. Chicago and DeJong v. Oregon. Alright, so, by the way, if you're one of the people that's going to watch my video and you think that I'm, I'm a bit brash, rough around the edges, that's okay, all of that is fine. It is of the utmost consequence that the people should discuss the character and qualifications of candidates for their suffrages. This would also include appointed as well as contracted employees as well. The First Amendment also protects vigorous advocacy, certainly of lawful ends against government intrusion, and litigation as a form of political expression. Those are from NAACP v. Button. The effective functioning of a free government like ours depends largely on the force of an informed public. So the effective functioning of a free government depends on the force of an informed public. This calls for the widest possible understanding of the quality of government service rendered by all elective or appointed public officials or employees. Also comes from New York Times versus Sullivan. Actually, let me touch on this one again real quick. The greater the importance of safeguarding the community from incitements to overthrow our institutions. So the greater the importance of safeguarding incitements to overthrow our institutions. So there's never been a better time than now to preserve inviolate the constitutional rights of free speech, free press, and free assembly. So there's never been a better time than now to support actual First Amendment covered activity. Not lawless nonsense, not actual, threats against people's safety and, not what we've seen in the recent weeks. These are not, those are not the appropriate avenues to voice your frustrations. But the appropriate avenues to voice your frustrations have been under attack for a long time. And the frustrations that give way to violent incitement come from a lack of faith in the institutions that we have in place, because they're not actually protected unless we, the people, recognize their protections and insist that activity that is covered is not violated. So, we're pushing about an hour and a half now. I was going to try to make this really short. I have court back-to-back trials for all these. I'm pro se, which means I don't have an attorney. I have bench trials for all three, which means there's no juries. And these cases have become quite political. Losses on any of them have quite a bit of fallout for the city, probably the county at this point. You know, it's there's a lot of people that have a lot to lose if I win these, and especially the way that I'm trying to win these. Like in the intimidation case, I'm going to be trying to I'm going to be trying to run Mr. Otis up for perjury. Probably in all the cases, I'm going to be trying to run everybody up for perjury because lots of people have made lots of conflicting statements. But yeah, there's a lot to lose here. So one of the things that has me realistically kind of concerned is the fact that the public is not, from what I understand, going to be allowed to just pop right into this building. It's going to be me, the judge, and the prosecutor. And hopefully it'll all be live streamed. Now, I'm asking anybody that supports the channel, supports, First Amendment rights, supports public rights to be on property, especially if you live in Indiana and you'd like to see this argued out in a fashion that actually accounts for the difference between private and public property, and all that comes with this trespassing case that I've explained. I would ask you to watch the live stream, or if the live stream is not up and you can't access it, call the courts. It's either 362-6808 or 326-6808. And you can go through the prompts and find out why this isn't being live streamed. But there's a state website that all of these county courts are supposed to be live streaming through. I provided that. That's the first link in the description, I believe. I'm in Laporte Superior Court number 3. But I have Special Judge Jeff Thode. So, maybe on an accident, it'll be Porter Superior Court 6 live stream, but it should be Laporte Superior 3 for all three. Like I said, I'm physically required to be there, but from what I can understand, nobody else is allowed in the building. And this got me kind of, based on everything else, the circumstances of everything, this is just the perfect storm to, I kind of expect to just be black bagged and disappear, and they'll write a report out that says, we yelled out several times to stop resisting, and then we yelled out he's going for my gun, and then we yelled out that we shot him. Pretty much a half hour, 45 minutes within me walking in the door, because that's about when the trespassing case will be starting up. I anticipate the battery charge will be done and over with almost immediately. But once we start getting too far into this trespassing charge, who knows how it's going to go. But yeah, so one of my main concerns is Cindy's posting this link in the chat. That's the live stream. Like I said, you can go on the state website. There's a link in there. Sometimes those links for the My Case Indiana website expire. If that takes you to some sort of expired link, you can search me. It's Christopher Throgmorton, THROGMORTON. The cause numbers are from, like I said, they're from July of 2018. July 2nd, 5th, and 6th of 2018. They end in 1721, 1737, 1755. The 1737 is the battery, the alleged battery. By the way, in Indiana, his actual behavior, ironically, meets the definition for criminal trespass under Section 4, which is the interference with somebody else's property. It meets the definition for attempted theft, criminal conversion, all sorts of stuff. So when he grabs my phone, he actually is more likely trespassing than I have ever been. Ironically, funny how that works. It's probably one of the reasons why they didn't charge him. I would have had a blast with that. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you everyone for watching. Racing Randy, yes, this is in Laporte, Indiana. I live in Laporte County. By the way, like I said, the courts aren't letting anybody in. If you're local, there will be a small gathering, could be a large gathering. I don't know. I know at least a handful of people, half a dozen or so, that have said that they're likely going to stand outside and maybe do some sort of informal protest, hold signs, etc. Everybody may meet up somewhere. I don't know. There's not much locally to be able to meet up in a group. To sort of watch the stream together. Maybe you guys can take shifts, but like I said, anybody who can keep an eye on this stream, the more eyes on this, the better. I don't want anything missed. Like I said, if you're somebody that can take notes or document this stream in any way, by all means. And I'm not telling anybody to broadcast this, which has a very specific definition. If you're a broadcaster under Indiana law, and I'm sure you would qualify for, broadcasting. But don't broadcast this. Should you, document it in some way that allows you to have it recorded. But it doesn't actually say that you can't record it. It just says you can't broadcast it. And at this point, with COVID and everything being virtual, they actually say that you can't rebroadcast it, which there's no it's amazing. Technology goes so fast, the law doesn't catch up with it. There's no legal definition or incentive or punishment or anything that involves rebroadcasting anything. But like I said, if you can preserve this or document it in any way, shape, or form, by all means. For anyone that lives in Indiana, Indiana's from what I understand, it's a one-party consent state, meaning that you can call someone in the state of Indiana, such as the courthouse, and ask why the stream isn't being live, or ask why the hearing isn't being live streamed, and you could totally record that call as long as you were talking in it, because then you're giving your consent. You're the one party. If you weren't in Indiana, I would advise looking into your own state's laws to see how that's going to, to work out for you. Different states have different laws, but I know in Indiana, I call people and record all the time in this state, and I don't ever have a worry in the world because I know it's a one-party consent state. So, like I said, if you can watch the stream, if you can document it, preserve it in any way, by all means. Awesome. Yeah, see, Invictus, it's always good to be. Yes, this is mostly about a trespass charge. They're all bogus, but the trespass, nobody, I can beat this in the fashion that they usually argue it out. The principal agency relationship doesn't actually exist properly there either. The city attorney is only a department head. They're not the agent of the entire property, only their department. So they don't actually have the authority to ban me either. They would need basically something from the executive officer, the mayor, and there's no documentation of the mayor ever. I've already pretty much got it sewn up, but the opportunity here to argue this out in the name of the public, and to try to get this entire, and because excuse me, there's basically a legal question here that has never been answered. So I'm going to pose it in a way that I think is going to insist upon an answer. And I'm basically going to try to argue out that the answer should be that the public owns public property and public officials literally are there with the permission of the public and not the other way around. The the public official is on the property with the permission of the public, and as such is not trespassing, not the other way around. But yeah, like I said, if you can watch, that's one of my number one concerns. I've had a lot of people ask me about other stuff, you know, how to help, how to support. I could, off the top of my head right now, I guess, you know, if you're into proofreading, if you've got a little bit of an editing skill, I could always use people to proofread and look for, you know, stuff and paperwork that I write up. You know, not necessarily interpret any legal stuff or anything like that, but more punctuation, grammar, you know, just stuff that tends to happen when you're in the zone and speeding through and trying to keep, you know, keep the flow going. I've had a few people ask me about merch lately. A lot of the new subscribers and stuff. I'm working on that. A lot of that stuff's been put on the back burner lately. I got a lot of stuff, you know, partly designed, partly, you know, worked out. I'm getting there. I've had people ask how to support, you know, the channel as far as financially. I have a PayPal. You know, it's monetized. Let your ads play, I guess. But if you got your money burning your hole in a pocket, that's on you. You know, I used to tell people that this is you know, the coolest place to waste your money. So, like I said, yeah, if you want to help that much, by all means. This stuff does, you know, it does add up. Printer ink is quite expensive, but you know, if you really want to support, monitor this live stream, if you can show up 809 State Street, Laporte, Indiana. It's January 20th and January 21st, both days. Like I said, the alleged batteries first, then the trespassing, then the intimidation. The hearings should start about 8:30. The courthouse opens though at 8, so I'll be there a little bit early. You know, afterwards, you know, with everything going well, I'll be available to talk with anybody that's there in person, and I'll probably make an updated video letting everybody know, you know, highlights, you know, things that went well, you know, anything that's still ongoing, etc. On Wednesday afternoon. I'll do my best. I've got I just registered for an urban agriculture certificate, and I start that at 6 p.m. tomorrow, or no, 6 p.m. on Wednesday. So I'll be doing trial all day, and then basically, you know, hopefully I'll be doing my first online class tomorrow night, or that night. I don't know why I keep saying tomorrow. Crazy, but yeah, it's been crazy, but it's all coming to an end. Thank you for everybody that's, you know, been here for years watching. There's, you know, a lot of people have been watching since 2018. You know, a lot of people have been watching since 2016. You know, thank you. You know, thank you all. Trenton, I see you're here. Just, yep. You don't have to comment, but I presume you got what I sent you, what I just, you know, was using to sort of map out the principal agency relationship. But yeah, Jenny, long time no see. But yeah, thank you. Like I said, hit that like and subscribe button. To all the newcomers, welcome. Like again, News Now Ninja, thank you very much. He sent 150, 160, 70 something subs, it looks like, at this point, so far over here. Appreciate the support. Yeah. Sorry, it's been a long day. I was trying to make this a lot earlier, but it's these kids, you know, everything normal still happening throughout all this. Yeah, definitely keeps it interesting. You know, nothing like the 10-month-old randomly scrolling a finger across and deleting a bunch of stuff that I copied to paste somewhere mid, you know, mid mid writing up emotion. Yeah, whew. It's it has been it's been a wild ride, man. I never thought I'd be I never thought I'd be doing all this, but somebody's got to do it, so might as well be me. But yeah, this is getting quite long. See if thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Invictus. Like I said, man, yeah, Cindy's right. I've been training like a beast, man. I'm like Rocky when he goes to Russia. I've been this is it. I haven't been sleeping a whole lot. Non-stop coffee, cigarettes and coffee and reading, and I probably smell like fresh printer ink at this point. But yeah, it's coming. It's right around the corner, and I'm ready. Um, but yeah, I'm honored to actually do this. You know, I never thought I would be doing it, but if you know, if all my interactions with the justice system when I was what's up there, Billions? Thank you. If all my interactions with the justice system when I was young and dumb, and picking up all this, you know, random interest in the law and how all this works, is going to culminate to something that actually is going to mean something like this. Um, you know, if even if it's just in my city, you know, even if this, you know, this whole legal battle that I'm going through prevents my local police officers from arresting one other person for trespassing on public property when they shouldn't have, it's worth it to me. You know what I mean? Even if it's just one person, you know, in my town that doesn't get arrested by the same police department I did for the same nonsense, even if it's just that one guy that it doesn't happen to, totally worth it to me. And it's been an honor, to be honest. You know, if it helps that one person, then it's worth me doing all this research and holding out through all this time, you know, all these judicial recusals, all this other stuff. I mean, I've been offered plea bargains with no jail time, no nothing, just be done with it. All they want is a guilty plea on paper to where, you know, they think I can't sue them because the case was a guilty thing. You know, I could have been done with all of this a long time ago. I chose to stick it out because I don't want this to happen to somebody else, because it happened to me and I let them get away with it. You know what I mean? Sorry, mustache has been, man, it's been itching. I trimmed it up so it look all suave and sophisticated for court. It's kind of gonna be itching a lot. Anyway, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. That's not your guys' problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and yeah, wrap this up. Tristan, Throg Squad, yeah, man. Where are you, by the way? I didn't see if you answered me earlier. Where are you at right now? Are you surely you're not back in this crap hole. You anywhere fun and exciting? Are you in some unheard of podunk town? Can we call ourselves the Throg Squad? Oh man, I'm gonna name you guys Insightfuls. Yeah. Cindy, I will see you Wednesday. I'll probably talk to you later on or tomorrow. But yeah, that's the end of it, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up for if you've got any questions, if there's anything that I get this a lot of information. It's a lot to keep track of, and I'm all over the place trying to describe it or trying to narrate it all. So, if you got any questions, go ahead. Leave them in the comment section. Like I said, once this is all uploaded and finished processing and whatnot, I'll add a few things in the description as far as ways to contact me and whatnot. I'll put like I said, my PayPal, the email. There's a few other things I was gonna put in there. I'll take some notes. But yeah, if you got any questions about anything, the my case thing and the hearing transcripts. Like I said, if the video isn't what you want to deal with on the transcripts, like I said, you can get in contact with me. I'll email you those, and then I'll put my name and all that stuff in the description as well, in case that my case link doesn't work. Sometimes they expire. That way you can look me up and get access. As far as the civil cases, a lot of this is public record because they're public record suits, so you can actually download the documents that myself and the city attorney have filed and the different court orders and whatnot, right from this my case website as a PDF. So most of the paperwork is available online in some way, shape, or form. Some of it you just got to get in direct contact with me and in order to get it. But if you get in contact with me because you're that interested in what's going on, I will absolutely make sure that I get you whatever information you're trying to get, whatever paperwork you're trying to read, whatever. I have no problem, making sure that if you want to know what's going on, I don't want you to be left with any gaps in the information. That's kind of what I go against. San Angelo, Texas. Nice. Never heard of it, but sounds fun. Anyway, good night, everyone. Thanks for watching. It's getting late. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I got to get a hold of a few people about a few things. Send them this video as well. Yeah. I'm going to try to make another video tomorrow. This sort of summarizes the where everything begins in August of 2015 that leads up to the beginning videos in February 2016, and then sort of from that point that goes through that trial and whatnot if I get time. Videos right now aren't as much of a priority, so I apologize, but yeah. Yes, sir, Tommy Stock, you're absolutely right. Knowledge is power that can never be taken away from you. This is what I tell my children. Well, my oldest understands it. My youngest doesn't right now. But my 10-year-old, education is something that no one can ever take from you. A lot of things can be taken from you. Your freedom, your possessions. But knowledge and education, knowing things, short of dementia, maybe a traumatic brain injury, knowledge is something that can never be taken away from you. It's the ultimate wealth. So never believe what they tell you. Always double and triple check it. You'll be surprised what you can learn on your own, especially if you're passionate about being informed. I leave you with that. Safety first, then teamwork. For anybody that's coming, I'll see you then. For anybody that's watching, thank you very much. Stay tuned. Wish me luck. I intend to give you a 5-star performance, and welcome to the shit show.